All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Smarktank Revolution, where we always kick out at two. I am your solo host today, the magnificent, intelligent, and always ever humble Joey Business. And yeah, my throat's a little hoarse today, but that's okay. Um, I just saw that we are now doing this new segment called The Essentials. And my amazing co host caught me off guard with this, and I thought it was a really great idea because what better do we do than always judge wrestlers and, their appearance and everything to do? Um, yeah, so Donnie caught me off guard by picking HBK as his first one, and I had to watch it and listen to it because the whole time I was sitting there thinking it must be, satire. There's no way he's going to give this man his props, and gave him a perfect score all the way, which I was super impressed. Until the very end, he pulled the Russo swerve at the very end by adding the last category, but that's all right. One good turn deserves another, especially in wrestling. So, anyway, in the spirit of everything and keeping up with all this newfound category and entertainment that we're going to be doing, I figured what better way than to retort with my pick, which would never be my pick, but because of his very interesting number one pick, I decided to pick number two. And today we're going to be doing the Essentials, Smarktank Revolution Essentials, Bret the Hitman Hart. Now, anyone who knows me as a long time watcher or listener of this channel knows that I do admire Bret Hart. I think he is one of the greatest of all time, by far. I mean, far and away, the man is incredible. Is he one of my all time favorites? No. To me, is he better than Shawn Michaels? No. Flat out no. He's never had the career that Shawn Michaels had. And I say that with all due respect, but like my co-host said previously, Shawn Michaels is a tale of really two careers, pre screw job and post screw job. And also, I mean, you really want to delve into it, could be three careers when he came back and had one of the best runs this side of Tom Brady I've ever seen for a man in his age bracket. So we're not here to talk about Shawn Michaels, though. We're here to talk about Bret the Hitman Hart. And using this scale that Donnie pointed out with Bret's own scale, so it's a 1 to 10 scale. There's three categories. This comes from Bret himself. And they're pretty straightforward. They're pretty cool categories. So I'm sitting there thinking, all right, you know what? Let's do this. Let's go. Let's go, as Tom Brady would say. So number one, the first category, wrestler's look. The physique, their appearance, and presentation. Your mind's eye when you look at these guys coming through the curtain for the first time. What does it invoke in your head? Like, what are you seeing? What does it do for you, right? And Bret isn't, a contemporary wrestler. He's not something coming out in today's day of flash and, shock and awe. He's a pretty, um, when you look at him, he's kind of vanilla, and but he had everything. He had all the tools. He has the look for the era he was in. He had the long curly hair. He had good good physique. I mean, he was good size. He was not a teeny weeny by any means. He had stature. So from wrestlers' look alone, especially when you're talking about the era that he came in, I mean, he's just left of Hulk Hogan, but he's not Ricky the Dragon Steamboat either, or Marty Jannetty either. So he's in the middle. Wrestlers' look though, the appearance and presentation. When I take that to be appearance and presentation, I take that to mean ring gear. I take that to mean entrance. I take that to mean all kinds of things. So Bret had some really cool things going because he always had those badass reflective glasses. And I wasn't the biggest fan of Bret Hart when I was a little kid, but I loved those glasses. I remember those mirror glasses very vividly. And I remember getting a pair at the old Boston Garden just because I loved them so much. So it was a cool thing. And in today's day and age, I didn't know back then, being the good consumer that I would grow up to be, that you're conditioned. These things condition you. These looks, these catchphrases, these little things that you see because you want a piece of that memory. You want to remember and identify with that character and that performer so well that you're like, wow, I love that. So yeah, the wrestling look. And then the black and pink tights. It depends on what era he wore them. I'm a big fan of his latter years black and pink tights. I thought they had a little more attitude to them, hence the Attitude Era. But you remember Stone Cold with the promo. He's like, "Go out and bring your black and pink tights because they look like crap anyway." Something to that effect. And so, I mean, he just wasn't the guy that grabbed me visually, but a wrestler's look, I'm going to give him a 9. I'm going to give him a 9 because he had just about everything, but, there was something that fell short of connecting with Little Joey Business back then. So I'm going to give him a 9. This is going to take a turn from the love fest that was my co-host's rating for Shawn Michaels, but, well, them's the breaks. So number 2 would be promo ability. Promo ability scored from a 1 to 10. And it says here, the effectiveness of performing dialogue or monologue to advance a storyline. Whew. Man. I don't think Bret was the most entertaining person on the stick. I think he was quite wooden at times. Where people like a Rock or a John Cena, or an Austin, a Triple H, a Chris Jericho, a Kurt Angle, a CM Punk, all those names that I just rattled off. Shawn Michaels, my God, Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair. Ric Flair's like the god of promos. Yeah, it's just, depending on the storyline, I think Bret did much better when the crowd was antagonistic against him. So, like, when we were going through that era in the Attitude Era in the 90s, where he's the face in Canada, but he's the heel in all the American territories, I think that was interesting. His promo ability isn't, I'm not going to call it above, I'm not going to give it, spectacular ratings, because I honestly can't think of a lot of riveting Bret Hart promos, and I hate to say that, but for Shawn Michaels, you could rattle off a ton. For John Cena, you can rattle off a ton. For Seth Rollins, you could rattle off a ton. For Ric Flair, so forth, so forth. The Miz, MJF, you can rattle off these guys. Bret Hart, I'd be really hard pressed. I mean, yes, there's definitely some good promos. Definitely. But it's due to who was on the other end of his promo. It wasn't necessarily like, Bret isn't a Paul Heyman. He can't carry himself on the mic and then put himself over at the same time. So, this is really tough. This is hurting me really bad, because I feel like I'm downgrading Donnie's favorite, deity of all time. But I got to give Bret a shoot. I got to give Bret a 7, and that's being generous. Donnie, if you're listening, love you, brother, but man, he's actually more like a 6. I'm going to give him a 6. I'm giving Bret Hart a 6. Now, the believability, I believe that with Bret Hart. It's the delivery of Bret Hart, for me, that falters. It's not the believability, because I do believe the man is a wrestler. I do believe the man is one of the greatest to ever lace up a pair of boots. You look at him and you say, okay, Bret could take that guy down. But when we're talking about talking trash back and forth, yeah, man, he's not much further from I'm rubber and you're glue in that category. So yeah, all right, I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna give him a 7. So we're gonna go for wrestler's look as a 9, promo ability is a 7. Sorry, man, I just got to do it. 7. All right. Next, in-ring work, the ability to. Okay, I don't even need to read the rest of this category. It's a perfect 10. It's a perfect 10. If you gave Bret Hart anything other than a biased or unbiased perfect 10, then you don't know what professional wrestling is. And I can admit that. The man is textbook. Literally is like the perfect rendition of a move being done as crisp as possible. For example, there is nobody on this earth that I've seen apply a sharpshooter with more precision and more grace than Bret Hart. No one can get it right. Nobody have I seen get it right since Bret Hart. Not even members of the Hart family. I love Natalia and all, but Natty hasn't even got it right. No one's gotten it right. CM Punk hasn't gotten it right. The Rock puts on the most atrocious sharpshooter I've ever seen. It should not even be close to called a sharpshooter. Benoit, the name that probably should not be mentioned, is probably one of the only names that I can think of that really applied a deep sharpshooter that was serviceable, beyond serviceable. Actually, it wasn't serviceable. It was a compliment to Bret Hart's sharpshooter. But yeah, Owen and Bret are the only two that could really put it on. So in-ring work, though, like to go off that, this guy could wrestle a broom. He could wrestle a broom. He had every opponent. He was fantastic. And every opponent only excelled by being in the ring with him. He was a mid-level guy who could work all sizes. He was the workhorse in the Attitude Era, especially when he had the Intercontinental title, well, prior to the Attitude Era. But he made it something special. I definitely cannot say anything. There's no blemish on this score. I mean, if I could give him an 11, I'd give him an 11 in ring work. I can watch any Bret Hart match today, tomorrow, whenever. I love watching him work. He is an absolute marvel in the ring. And, it's a shame that I had to ding him on the other two categories, but we're being honest here. But yeah, no, I mean, you can't say anything. I mean, and then as far as his matches, memorable matches, there's too many to name. You got, Bret versus Shawn at Mania for the title, the Iron Man match. You got Bret versus Austin, the double turn at WrestleMania. You got Bret versus Owen. You've got at Mania 10. You've got Bret versus, Mr. Perfect, one of my favorite matches. You've got Bret versus, Diesel. You've got so many Bret Hart matches. You got Bret versus Benoit in the Owen tribute. You got Bret versus DDP. There's too many. I could go on and on and on all day long. And I still wouldn't be able to compliment him enough. Bret versus Shawn in any match, with the exception of the 97 Montreal Screwjob. That match, regardless of the history it has, it was absolute garbage. It was a garbage match, but it had a lot going against it. There was too much behind the scenes for it to be a decent match. Bret and Austin 96 at Survivor Series, one of my all-time favorite matches. Just a fantastic match. Bret versus Taker in so many battles. I mean, my God, the list goes on and on and on and on. If you haven't watched a Bret Hart match ever, I don't know what you're doing listening to us, because you got to bone up. We don't. Our tagline is, they say they're the no, but we are the no. No, they say they're in the no. We are the no. And the reason we say we are the no is because we're like students of the game when it comes to not only being involved around wrestling most of our lives, but also our professional lives too. We deal with a lot of indie wrestlers. A lot of them, some of them you've seen now. We have dealt with Anthony Green, who's an AEW superstar now. We have dealt with there's more that come to mind, but we have dealt with people that are now seen on your television every day. And we knew them when they were, wrestling in really tight halls and whatnot. And you be around this stuff, you appreciate it, but you also know it. It becomes ingrained. So, yeah, if you haven't seen a Bret Hart match, my God, there's no reason for you to listen to this channel any further. You need to go do your homework and watch Bret Hart. Now, here's where it's going to get fun. We're going on to, maybe I already jumped the gun on this, our STR, our Smarktank Revolution rating system. called The Essentials, where we rate 3 attributes from 1 to 5. Well, here we go. Innovative effectiveness. The ability to work as a baby face or a heel. Okay. I remember hearing this. Okay. It's really tough. Character-wise, Bret works so much better. I thought Bret worked so much better as a face. You know what? No, I gotta take that back. I think Bret's a born heel. As much as he is a beloved personality and wanted to be a beloved personality, he has the type of personality that comes with this really esteemed arrogance. Like, he's a pinnacle. I mean, not a pinnacle. He's a pedigree. His wrestling is just as fluid as perfect as you can possibly get. You know, if this was a farm team, he would be just cranking out professional wrestlers every day because he's just that good. Um, so when the guy's that good, it's hard to like him. But he had a big, larger than life character, so it depends on where he was. Like Canada, obviously, he's always going to be a face. Um, America, though, you know, there's a lot of people, myself, who always thought he worked better as a heel. And I think when you got to give Bret an edge, he became better. So I'm going to say his innovative effectiveness, scored from 1 to 5, which, you know, obviously 1 would be the worst, 5 would be the best. You know, I can't give him a perfect score on this because I think he's more effective as one iteration than the other. I would have to give him a 4. Again, that's being generous. I'd have to give him a 4 because I think he works so much better as a heel than a face. I think his ring work is always a heel because he's just the guy who can outdo you at every single turn, and he's not above taking shortcuts where it works. And he can grind you down, and he has the ability to really just torture you and prolong the match and make you suffer. So I would have to say, yeah, I'm going to give him a 4, and I think he works better as a heel, bar none. Oh, my dog is snoring. The Smarktank mascot is out next to me. Okay, this next one, classic matches, classic rivalries. God, he has a litany of these, as I said in one of my last bullet points here. He has an absolute litany of these. His rivalries from Stone Cold to Shawn Michaels, Mr. Perfect, you know, The Undertaker. He has so many matches that I would rewatch. Bret versus Mr. Perfect. I'd watch that match every day and twice on Sunday. It's such a beautiful wrestling match, and it's, of course, it's one of those classics, but it's not one of the classics that people put at the top of their list. It's not like the classic. To me, it is one of the classics because it was for the IC belt, and it was also just at that time where the younger guys who were carrying the mid-tier belts had to really step up their game a notch. But, you know, then his rivalry with Shawn Michaels is almost unparalleled because there was so much. Yes, there was a lot of kayfabe, but there was a lot of shoot in it too. I mean, they really disliked each other back then. Really disliked each other. But it wasn't. They were friends, but the office turned them against each other in a lot of ways. And it's a shame because the way the trajectory of their careers were going at that time really judged how they treated each other. But because of that nastiness or that reality, you got a lot of great matches and television out of it. So for classic matches, God, I'm giving him a perfect 5. How can you not give him anything but a perfect 5? I mean, anything Bret touched in the ring, bell to bell, turned to gold. So yeah, I'm giving him a perfect 5. And then here we go. This is kind of more of the same. Redefining moments. Scored from 1 to 10. The career-defining moments of a wrestler. Wow, Bret has had so many ups and downs. From being the absolute golden child of the WWE prior to the Attitude Era to being its most illustrious heel, hated inadvertently for who he was genuinely, and then the infamous Montreal Screwjob, which is something that even just a casual fan basically has a really robust knowledge of this particular incident. So it's something, it's really unbelievable that Bret Hart has such a wide variety of moments in his career that could technically define him. He's got so many ups, and he's got some in the middle, and then he's got some downs too, but then he's got way more ups than downs, we'll call it that. But if we're talking about, it's not just based on all the good moments, we're talking about memorable, you got to give him a perfect five. It's a perfect five. How can he be anything but a perfect five? He's given you so many moments, from his return at Survivor Series to his departure at Survivor Series to his, you know, to showing up in WCW, to his really not panning out and being more of a letdown in WCW, to his winning the title for the first time, and then to his burying the axe with Shawn Michaels on screen. I mean, God, even beating the Miz for the U.S. title for one night. I mean, so many moments. There's too many. Again, Bret Hart is really a career of moments, and there's too many to list. Yeah, I know it sounds like I'm being a little harsh compared to Donnie's like basically perfect score, and I'm not even going to create a fourth category, because there isn't a fourth category, because anything that you could say from Bret Hart can be said within the lines, and just like his action, it's all bell to bell. He is definitely one of the greatest of all time, and a worthy choice of number two. But out of the two we've done so far, that's where he stands. He stands at two. This has been fun, and signing off. Take care, everybody.